The other thing I've noticed as well, and this is part of my personality, is that I'm a stickler for improvements. So one of the big things I've realized is that these pens are quite hard to read on the board. And although I like the different colors, it doesn't work as well. So I've ordered some new ones on Amazon, but that links perfectly to what I'm going to talk about. That if you wanted to enter the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games or whatever, the NBA, if you're a basketball player, there's a lot of skill and time and effort that goes into these things that I think when people think it looks easy. I used to live with the guy and I loved the guy, and he thought for Wimbledon, the tennis tournament, you could just turn up and play and then work your way through to like the final. And that's sadly not the case. Sadly, it's, it's kind of 10, 20 years of hard work, effort, skill, training every day, etc. But the truth is for business, it's very similar. That you have, it's over 50% of people now would like to start their own business at some point, or at least they like the idea of it. And what I wanted to do was just share some knowledge and thinking as someone that kind of does this a lot, just to kind of, spare some ideas with you. So the first thing is to pick your sport. That yes, you get some super talented people that can do loads of different stuff. So Michael Jordan played basketball and baseball. There's quite a few people that are just extremely athletic and they can kind of do whatever they want. LeBron James obviously plays basketball, but he could have gone into anything and he's just a pure kind of monster. But the point is you need to pick your sport. So likewise, if you want to start your own business, find something that is distinctly you. What makes you mega happy? What's something that you would genuinely do for free if nobody paid you and you're just really passionate about it? I think one of the big places where people go wrong is that they get too distracted with too many different stuff and too many shiny things, and they run around chasing different opportunities and never really just focus on one particular kind of area. And I think that really kind of goes wrong. But everyone also knows that, especially when you want to, think like an Olympic athlete for your business, it takes a huge amount of time and effort. One of the major problems you have online at the moment, and I get swamped with it, is get rich quick schemes and 10 grand a month from outsourced on Fiverr and your first million in a year. What was the one I saw last week was I raised £9 million in 2 weeks. There's a whole culture around selling the dream of achieving stuff quick. And if you want to go for that and you want to buy into that, that's fine. But the truth is, at least for me anyway, it's not possible. It's not realistic. So again, if you want to really aim for to be the top of what you want to do in the world, it does take a lot of time and effort and heart. And that, realistically, I get into this office every day for 7:30. I leave probably at 6. But within that time, I am mega efficient. I'm quite brutal with my time and that kind of thing. But you kind of have to be, because if you want to compete in business, you're actually kind of competing against everyone else in the world, if that makes sense. So if you want to make pens and you want to sell pens to 33 different countries, you're not just competing against your local people, you're competing against everyone else in the world that does what you do. So like sport, you kind of have to be really good at it and be in it for the long term. That actually, that mindset of just picking something random that you think you can drop ship to buy stuff on in one place and then sell it somewhere else, it's going to be really kind of tough to make it kind of work. And it was just something I wanted to think about. The next is time scale. So most professional athletes, especially in athletics, it's different in the Premier League, so that's like every season. But in athletics, or if you're training for the Olympics, they kind of train in 4 to 8 year timescales. So there will be 12-year-olds now that are on the GB program for high jump. And what they're looking to do is it's not about trying to peak today to be the best 12-year-old high jumper they can. It's about how do they peak in 4 years' time for the Olympics when they're kind of 16, and then again at 20, 24, 28, maybe 32. But the point is, it's a knowing that actually you don't have to be perfect today, but there's lots of stuff that you can kind of work on which will help you over time really achieve your goals. Business is exactly the same. That I'm trying to build the roadmap, although we're doing quite well, I'm building it on a 10-year time frame that in now it'll be 8.5 years time. That's when I'm almost going to judge if it's a success or not. And you often have to celebrate little wins, like when people, hi David, like when people actually join the streams and the classroom sessions and stuff. It's often tiny, tiny little wins that it's the feeling of momentum that helps to grow. But don't expect or, think that you can magically kind of do that overnight, because it will be hard. The next is improvements. So when you kind of get to the Olympics, again, what people are often looking for is marginal gains. It's not to, if you run the 100 meters, it's rare that you're magically going to get 5 seconds quicker just by doing one secret hack to kind of do that. It's how do you improve your sleep, your diet, your start, the way you pump your arms, the angle you pump. And it's looking at hundreds and hundreds of tiny, tiny 0.5%, 1% improvements. And these things all genuinely will add up and they accumulate over time. There's lots of stats you can look at and I won't kind of bore you with them. But again, for your business, you don't necessarily want to just look at this one big swing, this one big thing that's going to make you a multimillionaire. It'll be hundreds and hundreds of little things. And then likewise, being consistent with those things that I've streamed every Friday morning, apart from when I was on holiday, for at least a year now. And I averaged 13 videos a week going to YouTube. And that's all around at the same time, doing all my client work, which pays for everything, and doing all of those little things. Because the truth is, when I shout out David or I send out a free pack, and I've showed you before the kind of lead actions that I do, all of the little things will help me gradually get to where I want to get to. But it's aiming to get to those things in kind of 4 to 8 years time, not today. Does that make sense? So again, for your own business, it's looking at actually what are the things that you can do just to get that little bit better. And then on things like the live stream, I love it when we get to celebrate. And actually I do it, say with a lady called Fina, in our Tuesday sessions, celebrate the little wins that you've done each week. And one win for me will actually be when the new black pens come on Monday, Tuesday. So actually it's easier for you to read what's on the board. That's a win that is like marginal, but I promise it will really, really help over time. And then just to kind of throw into the mix with that, I'm going to go into there's deeper levels of strategy that you really want to look at, that you have almost the beginner level and the intermediate level, which is kind of what we teach on the course. But there is some higher level stuff that actually the real experts, look at. And for different businesses, based on where you're at, there are different techniques that really to ride future technology waves when they hit. So for instance, when Steve Jobs came back into Apple the second time, one of the big things that he looked to do was basically reduce all the overheads, reduce all the costs, because the company was burning cash, it was going to go bust. And people asked him, well, what's your strategy for, the next to really help Apple be the biggest company in the world, as it kind of is now? And his answer was genuinely, he's going to wait till the next big thing. And that next big thing was the iPhone, which obviously I have one here. But actually it's that point of, for your business, do all the marginal stuff, do the gradual improvement gains, but actually if you can, learn the stuff for the future. So for me, as I mentioned before, it's 360 video, it's VR. And now actually I'm learning that stuff now so that if the metaverse does properly take off in 4 years time, 3 years time, hopefully by that point, I'm going to have a really shit hot studio and really know, because it's complicated, know how to do all this stuff. So that if suddenly everyone jumps onto VR learning to really kind of feel that you're in the room, I'm going to be so far ahead of everyone else that likewise, when some of my competition that could be the other private sector courses or even universities are still doing it the old fashioned way, you can really make massive gains, but you can't bet the house on these huge moonshot things. And it's about finding the balance between the two. And then last but not least, it's about having a clear goal. So you really kind of know, you need to know what it is that you want to achieve. Why are you kind of doing it? It's, if you have the vision for what you want to do, something we cover on the course and with David and the guys when we start to kind of go through it, it's all about trying to build the business and the dream that you want. And then how do we work towards that? One of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is that they just build a business, they just do stuff. And what can often happen is that if you're good and if you're successful, it turns into this giant hamster wheel that you kind of can't get off. So you create a business, it's making money, driving revenue, you've got staff at this point, you've got commitments to do, but then you can't just quit or do anything or change because you've got, responsibilities to pay people's wages and stuff. And that's why I think it's really important to have the goal really set out. What are your aims, goals, and ambitions that you want to achieve? And again, we cover it on the course. And then how do we build towards it? That for me, I'm building a business which doesn't have overheads and costs and staff and that kind of thing. And it's because that's not the business that I want to do. I want the flexibility to adapt and change and have a very low overhead operation because actually there's something called blue ocean strategy. And when I've really looked at it against my competition, in terms of the edtech kind of space and startup space, you have genuine like billion-dollar companies that have huge resources, unlimited cash. They got 500,000 users. There's one called 2u.com that were about $1 billion in revenue. I think they've just, through a recent acquisition, almost doubled that. But even at $1 billion in revenue, they've lost $200 million in the last financial year, and they've lost money every year since 2014. And what that does, it shows that in a pure arms race, I can't compete against that. So I purposely don't. I'm building a business which is the complete opposite of that, with mega low overheads, with a completely different approach to it, so that I can, basically that will allow me to do the free business model to really help as many people as I want to, that I couldn't do if I got outside investment or did it a different way. And the whole point is, in terms of my goal and what I want to achieve, that's what I want to do. So I'm building the business towards that. And the point is we can kind of do the same for you. So at 9:23, that little segment went on longer than I thought it would. But it is really important to kind of think about how for your own business, how to think like an athlete. Don't think in really short kind of time frames. If you do, that's fine, but you might be a little bit disappointed. But actually look at the marginal gains, look at the little things that you can do over time. And I promise it will kind of add up. My name's Steve Pugh. If you catch this on YouTube or any of the other kind of platforms, I'd love it if you give a like and subscribe. We talk about lots of kind of business and entrepreneurship stuff. I do tech reviews, we do podcasts, and if that's interesting to you, I'd love it if you follow and get in touch. And if not, no worries, have a great day. Okay.